Welcome to Dynamos Dozen, the podcast that'll bring you each and every single week where I talk about whatever may be on my mind, from pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh socks and jocks, and everything in between, never forgetting the talc. And this show today is brought to you by our newest sponsor, Fright Rags. Go to frightrags.com, which is fright rags.com. Also check out their Instagram page. They have a shop set up there. It's the most amazing horror movie merch you're likely to find anywhere. And if you put in the discount code OTS Horror 10, you'll get 10% off. So make sure you load up on that order, because 10% when you've got a big order, as my guest today will tell you, is pretty nice. And of course, the old school sponsor, of course, shout out to Niall Hogan of Wrestling Mania, Ireland's one and only wrestling merch shop. It is WrestleMania week, so make sure you go and check out what Niall has to offer. He's pretty much got everything that you need, from Stone Cold merch to Scott Hall to NWO to anything that's involved with WrestleMania this week. So now that we've taken care of that, I am very, very happy to welcome a debut, if you will, but not a debut within the debut. Mr. James Harvey from For the Love of Wrestling. A lot of you may remember this man's face as he was a guest with myself and Niall on the Four Podmen not so long ago. And he was promoting For the Love of Wrestling, which are events that they run in the UK. First and foremost, James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. We've been kind of putting this kind of been in the works for a while, so it was actually great timing, considering when this airs, it's going to be it's WrestleMania week. You know, it's nice to drop as many shows as you can to get people in the mood for WrestleMania. And
WrestleMania week, and sort of 3 weeks before our biggest show of the year as well. So yeah, definitely.
It's great timing, yes. So before we get into WrestleMania and all that good stuff, let's for any of my listeners over here in Ireland or the UK or anywhere in the world, mainly Europe, I suppose. If people are going to be traveling, it'll be more a European audience probably for yourselves. Why don't you explain to my listeners who have never heard of For the Love of Wrestling but have some money and they want to do something in 3 weeks? Tell them what you do and why they should go there.
So I work for Monopoly Events. Monopoly Events is one of the biggest convention organisers in Europe. You'll have heard of lots of our events. Comic Con Liverpool, which we do twice a year. Comic Con Scotland, which we now do twice a year. We've just come back from our Aberdeen show. For the Love of Horror, you may have heard of. For the Love of Sci-Fi, you may have heard of. Big ones we've got coming up this year: Comic Con Manchester, Comic Con Wales, Comic Con Northern Ireland. We've got coming up this year as well. And like I say, we've got the more niche ones like horror, sci-fi, and of course, For Love of Wrestling, which takes place weekend of the. Do you know, I'm always getting this wrong. Which takes place this year on the 23rd and the 24th of April in Liverpool at the Exhibition Centre. It's a weekend event with tons and tons and tons of guests, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a bit.
100%. Now, obviously, on the last show, you kind of gave a little bit of a kind of a history on how it came to be and whatnot. So I suppose the best way to kind of sell this, you know, for anyone out there thinking, okay, I'm interested. I love that. It's like a good pro wrestling match. You know, at the start, you're sitting back and you're going, I don't know what this is. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm listening. So the best, like any good pro wrestling match, like WrestleMania 13, you know the one I'm talking about, of course, Bret and Stone Cold. When you start sitting forward a little bit more, now people are listening, going, okay, James has something here I like the sounds of. So why don't you give them a little bit of a flavor of what you do and what you've done, I suppose, in past events? Because one thing I have to give you guys a shout out is the setups that you have. You know, with you had Shawn Michaels barbershop before, the barbershop before. You had I believe this year you have a Nitro, if I'm right.
Yeah, so I think what Monopoly Events tries to do with Full Wrestling is it tries to be something other than your sort of typical wrestling con. Now it's obviously the biggest wrestling convention in Europe now, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it tries to be more than a convention because, you know, I've been to conventions in the past all around the world, really. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've been to conventions here and in the States. And, you know, for a lot of these conventions, they've survived over the last God knows how many years. Literally just you walk into a sports hall or a youth centre or something like that.
It's like a queuing system or something. Yeah.
It's literally just in you go, queue, autograph, take a picture on your phone, etc. And out you go and you're on to the next one. And it's a little bit soulless.
Yes.
So what Monopoly Events tries to do is turn it almost into a bit of a weekend festival of wrestling. So, of course, you've got the guests where you can have autographs with, but we also do professional photos with the guests as well. And one of the things that we're trying to do this year, as opposed to perhaps, you know, what we did the first year back in 2019, obviously we've had a break in between because of COVID, is we're trying to make these photos a little bit more special. An example of being that with 3 of the guests we've got on this year is Candice, Victoria and Torrie Wison. As for the Uber wrestling geeks amongst you, you'll know they were in a stable called Vince's Devils for a little while. So we're going to do a Vince's Devils stable. We just announced on Sunday a huge guest announcement last Sunday, none other than Jim Ross, WWE and an AEW star, and for me the voice of wrestling. So we've just announced Jim Ross. So rather than just have that sort of token,
huge, yeah.
You stood next to Jim Ross' photo. We're going to be building an announce desk, and you'll have your picture taken with Jim Ross at the announce desk, as well as doing fun things like that. Every wrestler who comes to our show does a Q&A. You may be able to see behind me the picture. This particular picture is special for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you can see it gives you the image of the Q&As. We do the Q&As inside the wrestling ring over the course of the weekend. We'd also noticed that in that particular ring is Scott Hall, who we sadly lost very recently. Scott was at our first show. He was a phenomenal guest, and as you can see from the crowd in the background, he was a huge hit. We also have, as I say, the prop builds. We also have exhibitions. We also have a trader centre. Now, obviously, your entry ticket, and we also have live wrestling as well. So we have a couple of companies involved who come and put on live wrestling shows over the weekend as well. The brilliant thing about Flubber Wrestling, like we say, we try and treat it as a bit of a festival. Yes, you will have to pay extra for your autographs and photos, but other than that, your entry ticket gives you all of the Q&As, it gives you all of the exhibits, it gives you all of the traders, it gives you all of the prop builds, everything under the roof. You know, other than the autographs and pictures is included within your entry ticket, and your entry ticket's like 20 quid for the day. I mean, if you consider nothing, and if you consider what, you know, let's say, for instance, if you go to like an evening with event, a wrestler, for instance, you can pay 25 quid for an evening with event. We do an evening with event. We do that Q&A style event, and we can do 30 of them over the weekend. So, I mean, for 20 quid, the value for money is absolutely ridiculous.
Dude, to be fair, and I'm not going to mention any names because, you know, there's lots of them out there, but there's certain, you know, groups within the UK that come over here and they're, you know, one of the biggest ones. And they bring over certain guys, and it's, you know, an evening with event, and they're like up to 80 quid, maybe more sometimes. You know what I mean? So that's a steal. I have to say that is an absolute steal. And the thing, I suppose, how that makes sense, James, to me, if I'm a fan and I'm going, right, it gives me the option then of going, okay, well, if I want to pay a little bit extra, you've got a little bit of extra quid in your pocket, and you can go, right, well, I'd rather meet this guy and maybe save money and meet this. So you can kind of pick and choose, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's been frog marched from the cash point of being told they have to pay a certain amount. Yeah. I spoke to a guy after the first one, and I remember speaking to him on the Sunday evening, and I said to him, I said, you had a good weekend? He said, I've had the most amazing weekend. He said, I can't believe how much fun I had. I said, oh, brilliant. So, you know, which wrestlers have you met? He said, absolutely none. And he'd literally bought himself an entry ticket, plunked himself down in front of the Q&As, watched like 14 Q&As on the Saturday, another 14 Q&As on the Sunday, and he said he had the absolute time of his life. And I mean, that's what you can do if that's your bag. If you're a memorabilia collector and you want stuff signed, you can do that. If you want, personally, I'm a picture guy. I'm a big memorabilia collector, but not so much the sign stuff. For me, I really like to get a picture with the guys. You can do that. If you just want to come out and hang, just want to come and hang out with, 5,000 wrestling fans over the weekend, just come and do that, because plenty of people do. I mean, we have live wrestling shows. You can chill out and open a cold one and watch live wrestling with wrestling fans. You can come to the after party and dance the night away to wrestling themed tunes in a pub stroke nightclub just down the road. We do that as well. And even this year, I mean, it's great as well. Big props, actually, because I'm impressed, because this is one of the things that I've almost organised, is we've got, for the first ever time, we've got our own For Love of Wrestling beer this year. And that's being made by the fine folks at Top Rope Brewery. So I'm sure many of the wrestling fans out there will be familiar with Top Rope Brewery. They're making us our own For Love of Wrestling beer.
Well, I'll be honest with you, as a connoisseur of beautiful liquid that is beer, I will definitely be hounding you to get a sample of that for sure. Look, this is an amazing event. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, for some people, wrestling is their football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on WrestleMania weekend, I'm going to be at my first Chelsea game with my dad, and it's like you're paying like 500 quid to get in. You know what I mean? You're going, good Lord, just to get the best seats you possibly can. But on the flip side of that one, I'm thinking 20 quid to go in and see all the Q&As I can. Do you mind me asking, having a bit of a wrestling background myself, and obviously a lot of our listeners would be kind of very smart wrestling fans as well. What wrestling companies are involved on some of the live shows? Do you know?
So we've got Future Shock involved. We've got TNT involved.
Nice.
We've got Progress are doing some stuff for us as well. They've just revitalized themselves, so they're involved. I mean, when we've got other sort of independent companies who might be coming down and having like a stall in our traders hall, so they can tell people about what they do. Nice. I mean, it's very open. It's very much about the wrestling community, and we try and, For Love of Wrestling is obviously becoming a very, very big brand across Europe. We're trying to do with this is, also open it up so, some of the independent companies can come and work with us. And we have some amazing names as well. If we just talk about the live show. So also, if it wasn't clear before, we have a live wrestling show on the Saturday night. Now that's, as the convention closes at sort of 5:30, the live wrestling show will start in that ring at 6 o'clock. And that's brought on by the wonderful people at Future Shock Wrestling. Awesome. Now they brought some phenomenal talent down last time. People like Alexis Falcon, people like Lana Austin, will you be familiar with? People like Big Joe was there. All the sort of really good British names that are just coming through. But also in there, in the last one, we had very huge names like in our invitation Rumble, a gentleman called Pete Dunne turned up, who I'm sure everybody's familiar with, and he absolutely raised hell, which was brilliant. And then we had a 3-on-3 tag match with surprise entrance, and that turned out to be Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So even and I tell you what, he's still got more charisma, Hacksaw, in his little toe than most of us will have in our lifetime. Bless him. We are. I'm happy to confirm that we announced our first match for that show, which is again going to be the For Love of Wrestling Invitational Rumble on Sunday, so that's great. I can't tell you what's going to be happening, but all I can tell you is that there will be guests from our show appearing in the live wrestling at night. I can't tell you who and what they're doing, but they will be there. I mean, so this is the sort of thing, and that live wrestling show, which goes on about 2.5 hours, completely free with your entry ticket, doesn't cost you a thing. You're laughing. Listen, you're absolutely laughing.
If that does not tickle your intrigue, listeners, I don't know what will. You're going to be in the presence of absolute legends. You're getting basically a free 2.5 hour show. You're getting Q&As. I honestly don't know. If that doesn't make your insides rumble, then I don't know what will. This is not the show for you.
And the thing, you know what, we've spent like the last 2 years doing nothing, being locked down, not having any shows, not even having any gigs. I mean, this is, we seem to be just on the other end of it now. Touch wood that this continues, but this is the first really, really big wrestling event in Europe since lockdown. So, everybody come down and let's just make it one hell of a party, because by God, have we earned it.
1,000,000%. Like I'll definitely be there next year, without a shadow of a doubt. And as you said, fingers crossed. Obviously I'll be in touch with you. We'll keep in touch. So I'll be. Definitely. I'm sure you'll be coming back on afterwards. We'll bring you back on afterwards for an update as to how it went. And obviously you guys will be you'll be planning ahead, no doubt, to next year's one. Is there any before we kind of move away from it a little bit and talk a little bit about yourself and what you have coming up, is there any names that you can confirm that will be there? You've obviously mentioned Jim Ross, and I think that's a really cool. Actually, question that I guarantee one of the listeners is going to be asking: what announce desk is he going to be at? Is it going to be AEW or is it going to be WWE?
You know, we're just looking at that at the moment, and we're sort of trying to think. We're sort of trying to work it. I wonder how we do it because you're going to have AEW there, fans there. You're going to have WWE fans there. He's working for AEW, so would it be polite of us to put him behind a WWE desk? Would that make it a bit awkward? But then obviously the WWE fans are going to want him behind the classic one. So we might have it sort of a plain one. We might have it one where we can change the logos over. We're still working through that yet. Jim Ross is one hell of an addition to the lineup. He has been a little bit last minute. So we're still working through that. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'll just run you through some of the names on the lineup now, because I mean, it's a who's who, and I mean, God bless the booking team who put this together because they've done some phenomenal work. We have lost some guests, obviously, because things in America and other countries aren't quite as where we are in the COVID situation. Sure. So people are still very, very scared to fly. We lost people like Ken Shamrock, unfortunately. But just to give you who's on the who's definitely coming over. So we've got JBL, we've got Tatanka, we've got Victoria, we've got Trish Stratus, we've got Mickie James, we've got the Icon Sting, we've got AEW's own MJF, we've got IRS, we've got Braun Strowman, Earl Hebner, Lilian Garcia, Candice Michelle, Torrie Wison, Alundra Blayze, your Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, daughter of Davey Boy Smith, Georgia Smith, SoCal Val, TNA legend. We've got the genius Lanny Poffo, Jim Ross, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Bray Wyatt, Fred Ottman, known for Tugboat and Typhoon. Yep. We've got the New Age Outlaws. We've got Eric Rowan. We've got Grado from ICW. We've got the Nasty Boys. I mean, and we're also doing, obviously, unfortunately, we've also going to be doing, as part of that, as many reunions as possible. And one of the things we're going to be doing, unfortunately, obviously, Brody passed away, but we're going to be doing a Wyatt family reunion as well, in probably with the Wyatt family prop build. So obviously, we've got Bray, we've got Braun, and we've got Eric Redbeard as well. So they're going to be doing a Wyatt family thing as well. So, you know, that lineup, I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, people like Kurt Angle and Trish Stratus, I mean, there is bigger names as you're ever going to get. Jim Ross as well. MJ, and then you get the current guys. Like, I mean, MJF's probably the hottest guy on the planet right now, wrestling-wise, for me.
In my opinion, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you probably got two of the best, most outspoken, legitimate, living the gimmick heels in JBL and MJF right there on the same card. I mean, I would pay 20 quid just to have them in the same, you know, jurisdiction alone. Yeah,
it's going to be funny to have a chat with them because they're two guys that are really interesting. You're never quite sure, are they living the gimmick or are they just them?
Well, that's exactly, and that's not for you or me to decide, but I'll tell you what, if you go down there on that weekend, you may just find out. So there's another reason to go. Sting for me pops out. Kurt Angle, absolutely. Trish Stratus, you know, I mean, not only was she a great wrestler, but she, you know, she seems like a really cool person as well.
Yeah, she is. So, Hall of Famers are plenty, like Trish Stratus, like Jim Ross and people like that as well. So
huge lineup.
Mega lineup.
Huge lineup. So James, let's talk a little bit about what you've got, a very, very exciting, if not busy, 4 weeks on your hands. You are flying out to Dallas. Well, this drops Wednesday, so today.
You're flying out today. So this time on Wednesday, I'll be in Dallas. So I mean, it's great to do for Love of Wrestling when we do it because we always try and do it around WrestleMania time because that's when everybody's just got the real wrestling hype. So it's perfect time to do it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll be going to over to Dallas for a week next week. Catching up in and around Dallas with some of the guests we've got coming over, which will be really, really cool to do in the first place. but also just enjoying WrestleMania weekend in and around Dallas as well. Got some great tickets. Going to see the Undertaker get put into the Hall of Fame, which is cool because he was one of the guests on our first show.
Yep.
So it'd be great to sort of to see that happen. And obviously, you know, when he came in back in sort of 90, sorry, yeah, you know, that was when I first just sort of got into wrestling. So Undertaker sort of like been the guy, was probably like the first huge name.
How old were you then, if you don't mind me asking? Because we
I think about eight or nine or something like that. So you know, Undertaker's always been sort of a constant in my whole sort of wrestling fan career. So
me too.
Yeah, going to meet Stone Cold over. He's doing a thing at a barbecue place. So that'll be fun. WrestleCon. I mean, you know, I'm a big wrestling fan of WrestleCons.
Yeah.
WrestleCons are always fun, and then obviously WrestleMania itself. So that should be good. Looking forward to WrestleMania. Seeing Austin in the ring again will be cool. Cody. Yeah.
You've really, like, anybody that got tickets this time around really looked out, didn't they? I mean, Taker getting inducted into the Hall of Fame by Vince, you know, that's huge. And basically, you know, it's not being confirmed as such, but you're pretty much going to see 2 nights of Austin and Owens with the, you know, myself and Niall done a show there last night. And we basically said, you know, this is, for a lot of us old school fans, this is the main event. You know what I mean? Because obviously Owens is going to do something, probably stunner him, and Austin's going to tell him you'll see him tomorrow in the ring. And I mean, dude, to be there, like, that's something that you're going to have for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? To see the comeback of the Rattlesnake.
Yeah, I managed to get over to New York for the last one, which was a lot of fun. And like I enjoyed WrestleMania, the last one, but obviously the highlight for me was, even though it was only sort of like a 2-minute thing, was sort of Hulk Hogan coming out on stage, because I'm an old school fan.
Me too. Yeah.
So sort of actually getting to see Hulk Hogan live at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That was a big tick in the box. That was real bucket list stuff. I got to meet Jake the Snake the same weekend as well, and that's, you know, again, that was really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing if Cody Rhodes turns up. That's going to be really good fun. And obviously, you know, just everything else that's going on. I think it's looking all right, Mania. Yeah. I mean, I'm still not convinced. I'm in sort of two minds. I didn't like WrestleMania 95. Sorry, so WrestleMania 35.
95 was shit as well.
Yeah, it was. Didn't like WrestleMania 35 because I had to get to I sort of got to the stadium about 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was still sat there at like midnight. It was just, I was over wrestled at that point. I sort of hit a wall when Taker and Batista came in the ring. So I moaned about that being too long, but then again, I'm not sort of sure about it now being a 2-night show. So it's going to be interesting to experience that. I mean, it just feels quite fresh this year. We've never been to Dallas. The 2-night event will be like, this is the first 2. I know they had it last year, but it was restricted. No European audiences were allowed to attend, all that sort of stuff. This is the first big Mania back. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully the fans treat it like that and raise hell. Austin appearing, take a Hall of Fame. There's just loads and loads of really great stuff going on. So yeah, looking forward to that, and then coming back and getting right stuck into full of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we done a show last night, so we're not going to preview anything here. But like some of the standout kind of matches that you look at, I mean, I think Brock and Roman Reigns has the potential to be something pretty good. I mean, Brock, you probably got the best version of Brock at the moment, where he's just loving what he's doing, looking $1 million. Reigns, I mean, is just on his absolute A game. Expecting possibly a turn from Heyman on Reigns as well, which would be pretty cool. I think obviously Charlotte and Ronda, I'm really intrigued by to see what they pull out. I think Edge and AJ could potentially be a candidate already. I'm really interested to see what they pull out. You know, there's so, like, it's a pretty decent card. I mean, I'm disappointed, I suppose, from an Irish perspective, that, you know, there's no even Balor now that he's the US champion. I thought, right, we're going to get a Balor Mania match somewhere. Just, I don't know. The old man obviously just does not like the guy. Doesn't rate him because he's not, you know, 500 pounds. But look, it is what it is. Yes.
Statistic yesterday that if the Intercontinental title doesn't get defended at Mania, that it's been over a year since it's been defended on a pay-per-view.
Yep.
I was just like, how can that possibly be a truth? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Second most prestigious belt in wrestling.
You could have even done something, you know, in the sense of putting maybe, you know, a one night off, whereas you had the US title versus the Intercontinental title or something, you know what I mean? Because it's a match it makes sense to me. It probably makes sense to you. It makes sense to wrestling fans. But look, I guess the writers there really don't have a clue how to book, but there are some fantastic matches booked there. I mean, look, would you rather see Drew versus Corbin, or would you rather see title for title versus, with US versus Intercontinental? I'm pretty.
Do you know what I'd much rather see is, like, you know, like they did in the past. They did like the Money in the Bank matches at Mania. I mean,
yeah.
Five or six decent guys in there.
Yeah.
Like you Finn Balor's, people like that, people that can really work.
Yeah.
You stick 5 or 6 of them in an Intercontinental or a US title ladder match.
100%.
I mean, those types of Money in the Bank matches in the past at Mania have stolen the show. So why not do it,
dude? That's a great idea. Imagine like double or nothing. You know what I mean? No pun intended with AEW, but Double or Nothing, where you had, you know, the Intercontinental.
Exactly. You could have 2 ladders with the US and the IC, and they get to choose which belt they go for. Yeah. We're doing better booking now in 10 minutes than like WWE seems to be able to do.
It literally took us 30 seconds, James. But no, look, it's phenomenal. Let's get back and listen. I hope you have a hell of a trip. I'll be in London with my dad at my first Chelsea game, and then later on that night I have a little section that I've been promised from the guys at the Chelsea hotel there, where I'll be able to have a screen watching Mania. So I'll be it's nice. Kind of a double whammy for me, you know what I mean? Because otherwise I'd probably be there with Niall. I said it already. I'd probably be over there and I'd probably bump into you. So yeah, so I'm really excited for you, dude. I'm sure you're going to have an absolute blast. I'm sure there's going to be plenty for you to do over there. Even check out the grassy knoll and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? While you're there.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's going to be pretty awesome for you. Let's get back to, obviously, For the Love of Wrestling. I told you we'll promote it in the coming weeks. Obviously, when you come back, you know, you can talk about your Mania weekend as well if you want, if you wish.
Yeah,
bring Niall on. Maybe bring you and Niall on and talk about your Mania weekend, and we'll push this For the Love of Wrestling, because I do honestly think there's a lot of Irish fans out there that probably are thinking about, oh Jesus, what do I need to do over the next couple of weeks? And this is a perfect opportunity, especially for people that probably didn't get to Mania, you know, couldn't afford it. I mean, we're literally an hour away. You're over in Liverpool.
Sure. Yeah, of course you are. Yeah.
You know, it's a flight, it's a ferry straight over, cheap.
Couldn't be in a better place for you guys. It's probably cheaper for you guys to come than it is from people from London or from Scotland.
Dude, it's probably cheaper for us to get a ferry over than it is to get a fucking train to the other side of the country here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So any kind of last bits that you want to suggest to our fans as to why they need to go to this show?
Do you know what? I think you come to the show first of all because, you know, and whether you want people, first of all, people come on their own. If people want to come and do cosplay, people just want to come and check out the stalls and the gaming areas and all that sort of stuff, come and do that. Do you know, just come and just party with like 5,000 wrestling fans for the weekend, because you will have an absolute ball and you will be welcomed with open arms by everybody who comes to this. It's not a cliquey environment. You know, we're all the same. We're all, you know, all the guys. We're all wrestling fans. You don't get this opportunity often to just hang out with 5,000 other wrestling fans who are like you and just want to chat and chill and have a beer over the weekend. So it's a lot of fun. So please come over and do it. If you wanted more information, check us out on the socials. We're on all the usual suspects. But, you know, Facebook, search For the Love of Wrestling. We've got a page where we do sort of our main business stuff, but then we've also got a group where people can just come in and chat about the event and chat about wrestling. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. So please hit us up and like them and just keep up to date with it. If you can't make it this year, come next year. What we try and do every year is try and evolve the show so it's bigger and better every year.
100%, and I'll make sure I get all of the links that you want me to put in. I'll put them in the description, both on the audio and on the YouTube here as well. So we'll make sure that people can just click in the description, and they can find out all the information they need. James, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure, and like I said, I hope you have an amazing time at Mania. and we'll talk to you before the big event from your perspective.
We will do, Dave. Thank you very much for having me on again, Dave.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. Take care.